My name is Ida Abdalkhani. I started my own business, Ability to Engage. Every week is pretty different depending on the client's needs. It really is so creative. It's gonna go like this, and it's going to ebb and flow. A lot of people think that to start a business, you need to have a ton of initial funding. I thought that I would only work by myself. For me, it's not that I thought it was impossible, but it was something unexpected. Grit's really important. Put your phone on airplane mode. That's the number one tip I have. And I decided to go bungee jumping with my friends. I just quit my job because I was unhappy. Good connector doesn't just mean people. It could be connecting people, but it's also connecting ideas, right? Being able to take disparate parts of information and bring them together. That's a lot of what entrepreneurship is. That's a lot of how people come up with ideas. My name is Ida Abdalkhani, and I graduated from the Fisher College of Business at Ohio State with my MBA in Marketing and Strategy. From there, I went into corporate America. I worked at Procter Gamble in Cincinnati. I was a global brand manager. I started my own business, Ability to Engage. And Ability to Engage provides brand innovation and consumer insights consulting to companies around the world. So we're helping companies connect better with their target audience so we can help them figure out what's the best way to communicate with a certain group of people that they might want to sell their products to. So we work on everything from print ads to social media campaigns to TV ads, as well as helping them come up with new products that will help meet the needs of consumers. So there were two things I think that were really important to my journey of becoming an entrepreneur. One was when I was still in corporate America, I went on a trip, I was on vacation, and I decided to go bungee jumping with my friends. I was at Victoria Falls. I never wanted to go bungee jumping, but I told myself for me it was very symbolic, and I said, okay, if I can jump off this bridge, I will turn in my resignation letter when I get back. It was just a promise I told my friends, and I made that promise to myself. And I did it. I did the jump. And I resigned the day I got back from that vacation. And for me, it was like, you know what, if you can jump off a bridge, you can quit your job. It didn't seem that scary after jumping off a bridge. Kind of put things in perspective for me personally. I just quit my job because I was unhappy. And so I just took time off, I explored, I went backpacking around the world. When I was backpacking, I was going into the grocery stores in different countries, and I was looking at the different products, and I was watching people shop. And that's what showed me, wow, okay, I really am passionate about this. I'm going into grocery stores and watching people shop when it's not I'm not getting paid to do it. It's not part of my job, anymore. I'm no longer at a corporation where I need to be looking at what's in the marketplace. But I was naturally doing that, and I was very intrigued by that. And so that's what gave me the idea of maybe I could do this on my own and really focus on the idea of consumer insights and attaching that to then creating the brand strategy and the innovation. I would say most people were supportive. I mean, a lot of people were, I think, surprised, maybe a little shocked that why would you leave such a good corporation? You have a good thing going on. Why would you leave that? A lot of people couldn't understand how somebody would be unhappy. So I guess maybe there was some surprise and shock, but I would say for the most part, people who knew me well, they were very supportive. They said, you've got lots of ideas, and we've always thought of you as being an entrepreneur. We're surprised you went into corporate America. So some of my good friends actually, told me they were surprised that I went into corporate to begin with, which they had never told me before. So it was, I would say it would be, I guess, mixed reactions, but for the most part, very supportive. Workday for me typically starts around 7 a.m. The first thing I do is go to the gym. That's really important to me to work out in the mornings, and I get that done before my morning meetings. And so my meetings usually start at 8:30 or 9 in the morning, and I usually have several video conference calls or phone calls with clients throughout the day. Take a break for lunch, and then from 1 to 5 continue those calls, and then there might be some emails in the evening just to keep up with things. I try not to do too much of that if I can, but if we need to keep up with some things with consumer research or things that are going on, there might be occasional emails in the evening as well. But I typically have more of like a 9 to 5 day when I'm doing meetings from home, or from my home office I should say. When we're traveling, the days are a lot longer because we're typically in research. We usually start at around 9 a.m. but we have to be there ahead of time, brief, set up the rooms, and so we're typically in research from 9 to about 5 p.m. I used to work on weekends all the time when I first started my business, and actually I would say probably for the first 5 years. I've been in business now for 7 years, and I've gotten a lot better at delegating so that I don't have to work on the weekends. I don't work that much on weekends anymore, but I will say that even when I did work on the weekends, I enjoyed it because it's something that I love. You know, when you're passionate about it, it doesn't really feel like you're working. So I know it sounds cliche, but at least for me it was true. It didn't really matter. It would kind of blend weekday, weekends, because I was always working on the stuff I was passionate on. It didn't really matter what day of the week it was. Every week I would say is pretty different because we're always working on different industries. We're working with different brands, different clients. So, one day we might be doing consumer research where we're in a different city, inside someone's home, could be somewhere else in the world as well. We do global work. So every week is pretty different depending on the client's needs. The thing that I love about entrepreneurship is that it's always challenging. It really is so creative. I just love the ability to be able to think about what somebody needs, come up with a solution or set of solutions, and then every time, we're working with a different brand or a different client, so we have to make sure that we customize whatever we're doing to them. So there's always a lot of inputs, and so you're solving complex problems, and you have to be able to do that in a creative way to come up with solutions that are going to work. And so for me, it's always very challenging and fun to be able to do that. A few years ago when we did a project for one of our clients where we were able to bring in a different type of consumer than they originally asked for. So they gave us a problem and we said, well, we don't know that this is going to meet your objectives if you approach it in this way. We suggested a different way to approach the problem. So instead of just executing what they wanted us to do, we actually brought to them thinking about the objective itself and what are different ways to approach it. Based on that, we came up with an idea that they ended up putting into market and had 25% lift in sales at Walmart. They had 160% increase in share of voice online. So phenomenal results that all came actually from a consumer group that we recommended that they talk to, that they weren't looking at all until we suggested that. The hardest aspect is really, I think, having the determination and the confidence to continue even when you have slow times, because any business is going to be up and down. It's going to go like this, and it's going to ebb and flow. A lot of people say entrepreneurship is feast or famine. I've heard other people say it's quicksand. You never know when it's going to go out from under you. So there's always this little bit of uncertainty. Even when you're doing well, you never know if you will continue to do well. Will it stay this way? I think the hardest part about it is just, maintaining that confidence and maintaining that determination that, yes, you can continue to grow it. Yes, you can continue to build the business even when there are down times. I think a lot of people are surprised actually at the amount of work that goes into consumer research. I think a lot of people think that consumer research are like the surveys you get online, kind of the multiple choice things. People aren't as familiar with the idea of, you go into people's homes, and you watch them shop, and people that are in marketing, they know about consumer research and the insights world. But I think for a lot of people, it's surprising to them that the level of depth that people go to, that these companies are interested in understanding, that a lot of times is of interest to them. They didn't know that companies would go that far to really kind of dig in and understand them as people so that they can then come up with good products for them.
Many people think to start business, especially their own idea, you need a lot of starting capital.
A lot of people think that to start a business, you need to have a ton of initial funding. I started my business myself with no funding, just my own savings. Granted, I also started a consulting business, so that is very different than starting a product-based business. Service-based versus product-based has different capital needs when you start out. I just needed business cards and a website basically to start up, some registration fees to get the business officially, to be a business with the state. I was able to get work through the bank and get some loans and lines of credit. So that type of stuff can also be a way that you can fund your business when you need cash flow, when you need some startup capital. It doesn't have to come from investors. You can really basically fund it yourself with the help maybe of some loans or some financial backers without having to give any of your company away by going the investment route. I thought that I would only work by myself. I never thought when I started my business that I would ever have other people working for me. And that was just from the standpoint that when I started, it was just really about my passion, that I wanted to work on things that I loved. I never had this dream of employing other people. I never had this dream of having a team. My dream was, let me do work that I love and hopefully be able to make a living at it and I'll be happy. But what happened was I was getting so many requests that I couldn't handle it myself. So the question was, do I turn it away and tell them, hey, I can't do it, find someone else, or do I figure out a way to make it happen? And I figured out a way to make it happen, and it was through adding team members. For me, it's not that I thought it was impossible, but it was something unexpected that came of my business. I think the most important thing in education is to get a good foundation of leadership skills, communication skills. At the end of the day, any industry that you go into, you need to be able to communicate well and you need to be able to lead teams. Even if you don't want to be a CEO, right? You don't want to be, let's say, a leader in the sense of being a C-suite leader. Inevitably, almost every job is going to have some element to it where you're still working with other people, and at some point you might be a project lead, a team lead of some sort. So I think the types of classes to focus on are some of those interpersonal skills, some of the things that actually are less tangible. They often call them the soft skills, but to me those are some of the most important skills, because you can read a book, you can do different projects to get the hard skills and get those experiences. It's much harder to teach the soft skills. And so I recommend taking any classes that you can that are offered, getting involved in extracurriculars, anything that has the element of teaching you communication, teaching you leadership skills, and giving you those experiences. One of the things that's really important these days is having a high emotional IQ. That's one thing that some people just have innately. They totally empathize with people and they have a high emotional IQ. That's also something that even if you don't have it today, I feel like you can learn it, you can get better at it. It's one of those soft skills. So for example, if someone is telling you at work about things that are important to them and they're talking about their kid or their pet, maybe something happened negative at home and they're talking about that, but the leader of the project is like, okay, it's 9 a.m., time to start the meeting. And they don't allow that space and that time for people to be able to express themselves. That can be a negative thing for the team. Knowing that there should be some empathy to allow that expression and that understanding for people as individuals and not just people as the worker that they are there, and that capacity that they're there at work is really important.
How one can learn to be more empathical?
The idea of trying to develop more empathy is something that takes a lot of practice. 93% of communication is actually nonverbal, and we communicate primarily through our words. People don't realize how much your posture and your body language affects things. Taking some classes on nonverbal communication could be helpful, or anything, just even online, there's a lot of videos. It doesn't have to be something that's taken in a college class by any means. There's a lot of ways to learn about how to pick up on those things. The number one things is flexibility. The other one is being able to be a good connector. And good connector doesn't just mean people. It could be connecting people, but it's also connecting ideas, right? Being able to take disparate parts of information and bring them together. That's a lot of what entrepreneurship is. That's a lot of how people come up with ideas. It's not that it's something totally new to the world. It's that you took something that was like sparked from another category, a different area or industry altogether, and you said, what if I put that here? What if that worked here? So it's being able to connect things that to most people would actually seem unrelated or disparate. So that piece is really important. Grit's really important. You really have to have the ability to stick through things even when times are bad. And the fourth thing I would say is being a good communicator, because a lot of entrepreneurship is about getting other people excited about your idea, because you have to build teams, right? Or let's say you're trying to sell what you have. Well, you got to get the client or your potential buyer excited about what you're doing. And so communication is also a really important skill. Put your phone on airplane mode. That's the number one tip I have. It is such a distraction. I mean, the phone is amazing, and obviously, you know, we need it to get a lot of work done, but as much as you can, if you're working on something where, you know, you're not in a meeting, you don't need your phone, you're focused, let's say at your desk or at your computer, turn your phone off, put it in airplane mode so you don't have any distractions. I think that's really important. The second thing I think that's important is to put things together that are like-minded. What I mean by that is, you know, switching between left and right brain activities takes some time for your brain to switch. And so if you have a lot of things that are more in the creative realm, try to do those things together, batch them so that you're working on those things in the same day or the same block of time. Things that are more left-brained activities, try to batch those things so that you're working on them around the same time or block of activity in a day, because it helps your brain to be more productive and efficient. I try to limit emails. I used to be a really big emailer. You know, I just thought it was such a great way, you know, to communicate with people, because you can copy 5 people and get the same thing out, you know, instead of making 5 different phone calls or having 5 different meetings. I've come to realize is that because of, you know, the nonverbal communication, right, you're losing so much just in the written word. People don't understand the tone, they're not getting your facial expressions, and so a lot of times what you think can be more efficient by sending out an email to 5 people could actually be less efficient. So I really try to have meetings in person as my number 1 goal. Number 2, I'll do it via phone or video conference, and then 3 will be email. So that's another thing that I think has helped with productivity. Having a lot of strong extracurriculars, because from my point of view, I look for people that have those strong soft skills, the leadership, the communication, being detail oriented, those types of things, because I can teach people how to do the work that we do. I can teach people how to do the marketing. I can teach them the hard skills. So for me, what's more important is having somebody that has the soft skills. So I think showing those types of things on a resume or a CV are really important. A lot of times that can come through in how you present the CV itself, right? Do you present it in a way that is clear and detail oriented? You know, do you present things in a way that make you you know, exude your communication or your leadership skills, right? Like a lot of it's in the presentation of the CV, and then the other part of it is just showing those experiences that complement that. So whether it's through the classes that you took or through extracurricular activities and things that you're involved with in the community, but there needs to be definitely that that positioning of things to help show those soft sides. I was very lucky that, you know, my business had clients from the beginning, and I had very low expenses in terms of the capital that I needed to put into it. So it was, from a profit margin standpoint, profitable in year 1. Now, for me, what was difficult was actually year 3. So years 1 and 2 were great, and year 3 was bad. And so that was something where I had to work through it. That's where I talk about the grit and the need to be determined and really passionate about what you're doing, because, you know, for me, there was no reason to think, oh, if I did well my first year, my second year, there was no need to think that year 3 would be bad. But it was difficult because one of our main clients went through a reorganization at their company. So people were fired and people were cutting budgets, you know, so they were not hiring out a lot of the things that they used to hire out. And so all of a sudden I had to think about, oh my gosh, what about, you know, where am I going to go find clients? And so for me, year 1 was good. It was year 3 that was a struggle. I think if I started over, I think I probably would start with more like a bigger vision than when I started, because when I started it was I want to do work that I'm passionate about and make a living at it, and I didn't have that idea of being bigger than just me. And so that's something that I've had to learn as I went along, and I think if I had proactively thought about that up front, it would have helped me be I think more efficient later on in the business. Oh, there's so many people I'm grateful for. So I can't just say one. So I'll say I've had multiple mentors when I was at Ohio State, people in the business field that I really looked up to in terms of what they were doing as entrepreneurs. And so they were so gracious, I should say, with their time. And I'm so grateful to them for giving me their time because they allowed me to learn from them. And that's just an invaluable piece of mentorship that I can never repay. And so the way I try to repay it is by myself being a mentor to other people and trying to give back in that way. The second thing is having what I call my tribe. I've surrounded myself with people that were doing the types of things that I wanted to do so that I could have the right support structure. I consciously really focused on surrounding myself with people that were in my age group and entrepreneurs, and that has helped me tremendously, and I'm really grateful for that, because just having that support structure when you have the down days and knowing like, okay, this person went through this too, they have advice for me, they can help me kind of get through this phase, has been incredibly helpful. Be better than yesterday. And that's actually a quote that I use all the time, because as an entrepreneur, we have these big visions and it can be incredibly overwhelming because we want to do so much and we want to do it now. It's really important to remember that, you know, we can achieve way more than we think we can achieve in a year or in a month, right? And we often overestimate what we think we can achieve in a day. Confidence for children in middle school. I feel like if people were more confident to begin with at a young age, it would result in much better focus in school, better alignment with passion and purpose, and getting a job later in life. And so I think it's something that there are organizations, I've looked into it, there are organizations that do help provide that. I've been involved with some of them, like Girls on the Run. I think that there's still an opportunity to really focus on building confidence in young people, and that would really help themselves and their own lives to have better, more fulfilling lives.
What's your favorite food?
Well, it's a Persian dish and it's called June.
What's your favorite thing to do in your free time?
Run. I love just being outdoors and exercising. I'm also a laughter yoga instructor, and so I love to be able to teach others about laughing as an exercise.
I want you to pull out your outrageous cell phone bill with all its crazy roaming charges and overages, okay? And we're gonna take a minute to remind ourselves that while we can't change the outcome of that crazy cell phone bill, we can forgive ourselves, we can laugh for a moment, and we can have fun with it, okay? So deep breath in, and laugh at your cell phone bill.
What's your favorite country to visit?
Italy.
One thing you cannot live without?
My memory book.
What's your favorite book?
Alchemist.
What's your favorite show or movie?
Star is Born, so that's my new favorite movie. Favorite show? 2020 or Dateline or those types of things.
What makes you sad?
All the negativity on social media.
What makes you happy?
Anytime I see a stranger smile.
You should become an entrepreneur if you are.
If you have ideas to help the world.
You should not become an entrepreneur if you're.
If you are sensitive. You have to have thick skin to be an entrepreneur. Whatever it is that you want to pursue, I hope that you will have confidence in it, because there's no one in this world that is uniquely you. Anybody else can tell you what to do from their perspective, but the way that you are is perfect. And I hope that you will remember to be confident in your ideas, be confident in who you are, and to pursue the things that you're passionate about.